Going live on YouTube.
Okay.
Hi, welcome to That's Vegetarian. And, oh, That's Vegetarian. Did I really say that? Oh my. How about Epicure Nutrition? And you know what I look like, so that works. And here we have the 2-camera view. I am Karen Buchholz, and I am your host for tonight's shakshuka. I get in restaurants all the time, and I thought, like, wow, this dish is really good. And then I'm like, at one point, this can't be really that hard to make. And I found a recipe, and it's really pretty darn easy to make. So the ingredients that you need for the shakshuka, which is like a Middle Eastern type dish. Ooh, I forgot to get an extra garlic clove. Let me grab that. So we know that one of the ingredients is garlic. We've got some minced garlic there. We're going to do 3 cloves because I like the garlic. We have a teaspoon of thyme. We have cayenne pepper to taste, red pepper to taste. I have a 1/4 teaspoon of each. Sweet paprika and smoked paprika, as well as some cumin. Traditionally, it'll only have some tomatoes. And the great thing about it is that you can use canned tomatoes. And generally, they taste better than store-bought tomatoes anyway, because store-bought tomatoes really don't have all that much flavor. And some onions. To mine, because I want to make it a little heartier, have a little bit more vegetables to it, I'm going to add some yellow pepper because it shows up and looks cute. And so it's a 1/2 yellow pepper, and then 4 ounces of zucchini. The zucchini that I had was huge. It was one giant zucchini. So as you can tell just by this, the diameter is pretty big. So I'm going to cut it in quarters. If it's a smaller zucchini, you could probably leave just the rounds or have it. And then serving it with some pita bread, because when you see the finished dish, you'll understand that having some toasted pita bread is nice to dip in the tomatoes. And so the tomatoes that I'm using are San Marzano. They're really flavorful tomatoes, and they're really nice. I'm using the peeled whole ones, but you can also use crushed ones. So let us get started. Oh, and did I forget the eggs? I forgot the eggs. If anybody has looked at my black bean soup recipe, it's a similar type of idea. And my black bean soup recipe, one of them I have poached eggs in there, and this is even easier than doing poached eggs. I am just going to push this back a little bit so we can do some prepping. All right. And if you take a look in the chat box, you will see that there's the shakshuka recipe in there. So you can just grab that and you'll have it. Otherwise, just shoot me an email at karen@epicurenutrition.net for those of you on YouTube, and I want to welcome you. So that's Karen, spelled the right way, Karen, at Epicure, EPICURE, nutrition.net. All right, let's get chopping. So first thing that I'm going to do, and even though wood cutting boards are great to chop on, I like using my plastic one that I can just dump in there. I'm going to start with the onion, and I'm going to do the mise en place, which I've talked about before. And mise en place is just prepping all your ingredients before you get cooking. The way that I cut the onion, if you see, I cut it along where you kind of have the seams, the way I look at it, of the top and the bottom. and then peeled away the skin. And I saw this on Julia Child, which I thought was pretty awesome. And then I'm just going to cut this piece off. And what is generally helpful to have as well is some sort of a garbage bowl or a measuring cup, whatever you want to use. So then you can just put your garbage in there and not necessarily worry about it. The most dangerous knife in the kitchen is a dull knife. I just sharpened my knife a little bit yesterday because I noticed it was a little bit dull. As we've talked before about chopping an onion or chopping things, you've got the claw, the bear claw, and then you also have a tunnel. So those are two of the different ways to cut it. If I was to take the whole onion, why don't I get one? I guess that's the joy of a small kitchen. I can just pop away for a second. So the way that I cut it was this way. So you can see, and I cut it down the middle. And when I did that, that's how I got this. And then I just cut the tips off. Cutting it this way, normally I think we cut it this way so we get the rings, but it separates a lot. By cutting it this way, and I want to cut this very thinly, and you do a little bit of a rocking motion with the knife. And what you can do is use your fingers as a guide for how thick you want the slices. And by doing the bear claw, you're protecting your fingertips and you don't want people eating your fingernails. So those are two key things. And once again, like I said, if you have questions due to the way this is set up, I would recommend that you put it in the chat box and I will kindly look at that, or you can wait for the Q&A afterwards. So we want one entire small onion cut, sliced. And so I had half the onion sliced yesterday, and this is the other half. And then we have 3 cloves of garlic. Here I have 2 cloves, and they're minced. You can also use a garlic press. After all that, I pulled out my garlic, and I don't know what I did with that extra piece. Well, I'm going to have to grab another one. Oh, here it is. You can use pressed garlic as well. The pressed garlic will release a little bit more. Oops. I think I froze. Give me 1 second to get my video back. I think it's reconnecting. So you can use pressed garlic using a garlic press. Here's an example of a garlic press. Ooh, everything went all awry. So give me 1 moment while I fix this. Okay, I think we're back in action. My apologies for the technical difficulties. So this is an example of a garlic press. This one actually cleans pretty easily. And so you would just put the garlic in here and push down. And that tends to release a little bit more flavor and a little bit more of the oils that are in the garlic. If I'm going to mince the garlic or chop the garlic, I just put the bulb down, push with my knife, and you'll see that it crushes it a little bit. I'll just cut the tip off. And mincing garlic and pressed garlic really isn't much difference, but chopped garlic, if you have something that you're not cooking very long, having chopped garlic could create an unpleasant taste for someone who doesn't necessarily like the pungency of garlic, because chopping garlic is great for if you're stewing something, cooking something for a long time, crock pot, Instapot, because it'll give the garlic a chance to flavor the dish. if you are using larger pieces of garlic in something that you're cooking quickly, like what we're doing right now, there might be too much raw garlic taste in there for some people. If you want it finer, you can just go through and chop it a little bit more. Wipe off the sides. They do sell things like, oops, I broke something there. Like this, which you put the garlic in and then you roll it and it gets rid of the peel. I find just smashing it with the knife works just fine. And one less thing to have in a small New York City apartment kitchen, although my kitchen is pretty big compared to most. All right, just gonna put this in. A lot of garlic there. All right, what else do we need to prep? Put this aside. We'll dice the pepper. I just sliced it in half because you already know I made some, so we can make this nice and quick. I'm just going to give a quick little rinse out to get rid of the seeds. So what I did with my veggies is I have a vinegar and water solution that I use for, and it's easier to cut on the inside because the skin on the outside can get a little bit tough. You can by all means cut that way as well. But if the knife that you're using isn't all that sharp, it might be easier for you to go on the inside. So I just have vinegar and water in a bottle, and I use it to clean my counters, to clean my vegetables, to clean my mirrors. And it's a great green, environmentally friendly way to clean everything. So you don't need to buy expensive veggie washes. Just get yourself a brush and use vinegar and water. Clean my stovetop with that today. And so we're just dicing this up. It's up to you how big of chunks you want. We're going to be cooking it for quite a while, so it will cook through, even if you have some more chopped pieces versus diced. Oops, let me add in a few more people. Oh, I forgot to grab a bowl for that. You can add more pepper if you want to. And what's nice about this cutting board is that I can pick it up and I can bend it and then just scoop the stuff in. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, I have my oven on 425 degrees preheating, so I can use that. Last but not least, like I said, I'm also adding some zucchini. This is about 4 ounces. I know this piece is 4 ounces. I want it thinly sliced, but I'm going to wind up cutting it in quarters. So I'm just going to have it now. Once again, I did the tunnel. And the reason I'm going to have it is because it's always better to cut on a flat surface when you can versus cutting on something round. So I am going to just thinly slice it using my knuckles as a guide. You want to make sure that you're going to put this in an oven-safe pan up to 425 degrees. Most of our pans now, as long as it doesn't have a plastic or a wood handle, can go up to, usually I've seen a lot of 500. Because this is so big, I am going to also, like I said, quarter it. Doesn't have to be perfect, just close enough. It cooks better in the pan. I tried it with just half and I had to go back and cut it all. These dishes were for my mom's wedding back in like 1968. So they're lovely amber dishes that I love. I remember my aunt broke the dessert platter when she threw her shoe at somebody at some holiday. My mom was not happy, but she didn't show it. She maintained her composure. At least that's the way I remember it. Maybe my family members on the call would beg to differ. But I just look for the time when I have a big enough place where I can have all the dishes and have all my dinner parties because I'm pretty good at throwing parties and a pretty darn good cook. And ask my friends in LA and San Francisco the amazing parties I used to throw. Someday that'll happen again. All right. So now we've got everything in what we call mise en place. It's all prepped and ready to go. So let me pull out. I'm going to use a cast iron pan because I love my cast iron. But you can use, as I said, any kind of pan that is oven safe up to 425 degrees. All right, so here I have my cast iron pan. I'm going to turn it on to, I have low to high, so that would be 1 to 7. I'm going to put it on about a 5 to get it heated up a little bit. You can put in about a half a tablespoon of olive oil. What I like to do is I have a spray and I'm going to just spray it in there. In general, with cast irons, if you're seasoning them, you don't want to season them with olive oil. You want to season them with an oil that has a higher smoke point, such as avocado oil, because that also doesn't have much in the way of flavor. But I put a little bit of olive oil in there because I want the olive oil flavor in the dish, but I could also use the avocado oil as that fits into the Middle Eastern theme. Once again, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. What I am going to start off with is adding the onion, and I am going to saute that for about 3 minutes. I'm just going to break up the onion a little bit to make sure that I'll have slices versus chunks, because some of them still might be pinched from one of the ends. And what they've come out with a lot as well is a lot of bamboo cooking utensils, which are great to use in non-stick. And one of the great things about bamboo is that it grows really fast. It's a really green type of material to use, and it's very sustainable. Today I was, ooh, someone's calling me and I got to hang that up. There we go. I was listening to a webinar about sustainability with what we eat and what we can do differently. And so they did some studies where they looked at ruminant animals. Those would be the ones with lots of stomachs, like our cows and our goats, where they process the food and they take up a lot of grass, and that's what they use to eat. Although goats are great to have on the side of a mountain to help clear bushes. They used to do that in California, Northern California anyway. And so we all know that the cows, it's me living in California for so long, that there was a big problem in the Central Valley because of the cows farting. The methane gas that they would release from all that they were eating would get into the environment, and it causes problems. And by decreasing your consumption of beef 1 day a week can say, or was it, now I'm going to have my figures wrong. I can't remember if it was 1 day or one meal, must have been 1 meal a week, that it would be the equivalent of 10 miles in what the carbon dioxide that we get from a car. So I thought that that was pretty interesting. So reducing the beef consumption because of the methane gas, as well as the amount of water that they use. And then also looking at certain crops. I know that almond milk is very popular, but what people don't realize is that almonds are a very high water crop. So it takes a lot of resources. And since they're in California, where they're generally in a drought, it's a bit of a problem. I remember a friend of mine who always grew up in New York came to my mom's cottage with me just outside of Geneseo, New York, near Letchworth State Park. And she was helping by doing the dishes, which was absolutely wonderful. but she was just letting the water run and run and run. And that to me is the idea of someone who's never had to pay a water bill or lived in a place where you have droughts, bouts of droughts with water, and just the importance of shutting off the water in between. And that's why a lot of people are better off using the dishwasher, because otherwise they would waste a lot of water. I spent a semester of college in Australia, and my family would not let me wash the dishes when I came back because I wouldn't rinse them well enough, because Australia also is very protective of their water, and there would be soap suds in the glasses when you tried to use them again. Oh, my sister and my mom would be so annoyed with me. I guess that's one way to get out of doing dishes. Okay, so you can see that these are slightly browned and a little bit translucent. So what I am going to do is add the other vegetables that I want to use, which are going to be the zucchini. You can use it, you don't have to use it. Like I said, I chose to make this a little bit more filling and more vegetables. And the yellow pepper, you can also use red, green, purple, orange. And we're just going to saute this for a few more minutes. I want to try to separate, and I should have done this when I put it in, because I sliced the zucchini so thinly that I want to make sure that it separates. Oops, that one fell. We will get that later. I don't want to burn myself. I'm still keeping it on that medium heat of about 4.5, medium high. We can bump it up a little bit to 5. If you feel that it's getting a little bit more dry, you can always add a little bit more olive oil. This is a sprayer that I got. I used to do the Misto, and now I have this Evo sprayer. I absolutely love it. It doesn't clog. It sprays well. So we'll just let this sit for a few minutes and cook. Once again, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. And don't forget to download the recipe, which is also in the chat box. If you can't find the chat box, there's a bit of a problem with me being able to help you on that. The light up above is a little bright. I apologize for that, but at least on the side you can see the good color. There we go. I didn't get an electric set. I have a stove, which is a cast iron with some nonstick on the inside. While this is cooking, one of the things that I can do to multitask is I chose, and it is backwards, so my apologies. Let's see, is it frontward this way? Yes, there we go. You can see that it's the Cento tomatoes. I'll open them up. Old-fashioned can opener, no electric here. Oh, I forgot to give Bentley his treat. But what Bentley did get today was a new toy. And he killed it. Took him about 20 minutes to get the heart out. That's what I call the little squeaker. I should give him his other little treat. I took one of his Kongs and filled it with dog food. Let's see if he comes for it. All right. So I have the can of tomatoes, which you can see there, and I can take them on a board and chop them, but that's going to get a little bit messy. So I have a pair of kitchen shears. So all I'm going to do is go in there and start cutting up the tomatoes, because they don't have to be any particular size. They can all be different sizes. They'll all cook just the same because we cook it long enough. You can chop them, and we'll chop them a little bit more when we get in the pan. But this to me is just an easy way to do it and less messy than putting it on a cutting board. Oops. A little bit fell in there. That's okay. All right. We put this to the side. Stir this up a little bit. Well, maybe lower the heat a little bit. The onions are getting pretty cooked. I wish you could smell this, and it's going to smell even better in a moment because I am going to add the garlic. As well as the sweet paprika, the smoky paprika, the thyme, oops, the cumin, teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of thyme, 2 teaspoons each of the sweet and the smoky paprika. I use a quarter of the teaspoon of the cayenne. My cayenne is a little bit older, so it's lost some of its pungency, and some red pepper flakes. I like a little bit of spice. I'm going to stir that up again. And it's a bit of a dry heat, so it's going to nicely coat the vegetables. We'll just stir it and let it cook in for about a minute. What you can use instead of that, a spice that pretty much incorporates a lot of those spices, is something called Zatar. Zaatar. It's in a lot of your Middle Eastern foods, and it has oregano, thyme. You can even add oregano to this. It has marjoram. Sometimes it'll have sumac. Sumac looks like this. It's a bit of a red spice. It's a little bit sweet. So we can even add that a little bit afterwards. Like I said, you could add the Zatar instead of all those ones that we added. And we have our tomatoes all chopped up. So we are going to add those in. And then I am going to stir this. And now I can also take a look at the size of my tomatoes and cut them up a little bit more if I want to. So I'll see that this one's a little bit big, so I can just cut this. And that's the nice thing about using a cast iron as well, instead of something with a nonstick coating, is that if I scrape these scissors along the bottom, it's not going to ruin the pan. So all those tomatoes look like they're a pretty good size. So now you'll see that it's pretty liquidy and we want it a little bit thicker. So we're going to let this cook for 10 to 20 minutes, just so it'll reduce down. And you can also reduce it down to whatever your like is after you make it once or pat it once, if you want a little bit thicker, a little bit waterier. I'm also going to add some fresh ground pepper. You can add, I don't know, about a quarter to half a teaspoon, or to just keep on going and keep on going. And just a little bit of salt. Add a little, bring out some of the flavors. It doesn't matter what salt you use, whether it be a sea salt, a Himalayan salt, they all have sodium in there, and the amount of sodium difference is really minimal. If you're supposed to be on a no salt or low salt diet, for yourself, make it easy. They all have about the same. There are a few minerals that are different in your sea salts depending on where they come from and what is in the seawater. That'll make it a little bit different. But they all pretty much have the same amount of sodium. So don't listen to the marketing. As we know, it's all a bunch of hoopla to sell stuff. So this we can just let cook and cook and cook. And the nice thing about this is you can take it and freeze it. So for myself, it's me and my Bentley. So this would be a lot for me to eat in one day. But what I can do is, this serves 4 people. I can take it and divide it into 4 different servings and put it in the freezer, put it in the fridge, and not cook it all in one night. because normally what you would do is once you're ready is you would make little holes in it once it gets a little bit thicker, as you can see the reasoning for the thickening, and then you put an egg in there and then you stick it in the oven. So what we're going to do is put this to the side. Let me get my handy little silicone. So I'm going to move that to the side, and voila. I've got a little itty bitty mini cast iron, which is perfect for a single serving. So if you have 4 of these little cast irons or something similar, what you could do is after you cook it in a big pot, split it up between the different ones. So what you can see here is I've created a little bit of a pocket, and you see that it's a little bit thicker on the ends. I still want to leave just a little bit of the sauce on the bottom, but you can see that I've got it pushed up more so against the edges. And then I am going to take my 2 eggs. If you only want to use one, you only have to use one. And the only reason these are brown is because they came from a brown chicken. So 1 egg fits in there nicely, or you can add a 2nd egg. You can do 2 egg yolks. Eggs aren't as bad as they once thought. Eggs have a lot of vitamins and minerals and nutrients that are really healthy. And the amount of cholesterol that you get from them is really minimal, as well as the fact that most of the cholesterol, if we have high cholesterol, it's more so genetic than from the food that we get, just as an FYI. So now I've got my dish all ready to go. And because this one isn't hot, I am just going to take it and put it in my 425-degree oven for about 10 minutes until the eggs cook. And if it's a little bit more liquidy, the liquid will cook the eggs as well. Woo, that's hot. Let me, and voila, you pull out your shakshuka from the oven, and the eggs are cooked. It is a little bit more of a sunny side up egg, and you can pull it out a little bit sooner because, let's see if I can get, the light on this is just horrible. Let's go this way. There we go. The eggs will continue to cook after you take it out of the oven. This did dry up a little bit because it was in the oven. At this point, once you take it out of the oven, you can put some cheese on there if you want. Feta or goat cheese will go really nice. Having this a little bit more liquidy, it would be a little bit, like I said, it's personal preference and personal taste. It would be just a little bit less thick. But you'll see here, we've got the lovely zucchini in here. We've got the egg, which is pretty well cooked, and even these egg yolks are pretty well cooked. You can have it where the egg yolks are a little bit more runny, depending on what your palate is. Top it with the goat cheese or the feta cheese. And what I'm going to take is a little bit of cilantro and just decorate it with a little bit of cilantro before I serve it. And it just makes a really, really pretty dish. And then you can serve it with some pita bread. Break it up. Put it on the side. And there is our shakshuka. If you didn't have the individual pans, you can just scoop it out into dishes. Oh, that went on its side. Well, I guess that looks a little bit better now, doesn't it? I'll have to remember that for next time. But there is our shakshuka. And no meal would be complete. And I still don't see any questions in the chat box. And I apologize, YouTube people, I haven't had a chance to look in the chat box there. Hot. Oh. Wow. Hi. I took a bite. It's pretty hot, temperature-wise, but it's really good. It is a bit spicy. I got a little bit spicier on day 2, but that's vegetarian, and come to Epicure Nutrition for all the good food. All right. That is how to make a shakshuka. It's really not that hard. It takes a little bit of time. You could also probably put it in a crock pot. Wouldn't taste as good, wouldn't be nearly as much fun. So all in all, it takes maybe about a half hour to make. if that, but it's a really great dish full of vegetables. So it helps you get your vegetable servings in. By adding the eggs, it helps you get your protein in. So that is all I've got. I'm going to go to one camera and see if anybody has any questions. So let me try to do this. I'm going to stop recording now. And I am going to remove spotlight. Ooh, you can see the little bit of sweat from the kitchen. Maybe I shouldn't have the phone that close to my face. And oh well, there we go. I'm on. So what questions do we have? Please unmute yourself. Show your face. I'm going to go through and ask to unmute. I don't know if it's going through or not. Any questions? Oh, maybe I can't hear because there's nasty feedback. Let me see.
Can you just one of your sound devices? You're muted, Karen.
Now I'm not muted. Woohoo!
Not,
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions?
nope.
No. I hope you enjoyed the recipe.
Yes.
Wonderful. And I hope you get a chance to make it. And please go to my YouTube channel and let me know what you think of it after you do make it. Oh my goodness, you can see my dog food on the counter behind me. Once again, the joys of a small kitchen. I don't even know where the little guy is. He must have gotten exhausted from attacking his new toy.
That's funny.
He's a little munchkin. But wonderful. I want to thank you all for coming, and please email me suggestions on what you would like me to make that's plant-based next. Doesn't mean it's completely vegan, but it'll be mostly plant-based at Karen@epicurenutrition.net. That's the key part. And I want to thank you, and don't forget to join us. Oh goodness, now I need to know the date in May. I should have known it. The first Tuesday in May, where we'll have our nutrition webinar on labels, to do a little bit of refresher on those, because we always forget what's important about reading labels.
All right.
And have yourself a good week. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.